Hello students, in continuation with the previous topics, I am now considering another topic, and that is the topic of industrial sickness. The first concept arises is, what is industrial sickness? When we call an industry to be a sick one, there are n number of definitions in this regard. However, the more eminent definition is the definition given by RBI. RBI has defined a sick unit as follows. There are certain criteria which it has prescribed. The first criteria talks about the fact that if the entity is persistently incurring loss, and that persistence is nothing, it's not related to number of years. It means that if the entity is incurring loss and it is incurred loss in the past 1 year, means in the previous year if the entity has incurred loss. The second criteria talks about if currently the entity is incurring loss, and in the future year to come, means the next year also the company will be incurring loss. Then, and in addition, if the financial structure shows imbalance, like if the debt equity ratio is worsening, and the current assets to current liabilities, means the current ratio is also deteriorating. If it is less than 1:1 ratio. So if we say all these things, means there are certain criteria which have been prescribed. Here, if we notice carefully, we are here talking about 3 years. One is previous year, the second one is the middle year, means the current year, and the next one is the year that is supposed to be coming. And another criteria is the annoying facts related to the financial structure that shows the worsening position of balance sheets and worsening positions of the assets and liabilities. So if an industrial scenario or an industrial unit is being characterized with these features, then we call that industrial unit to be a sick one. Now we'll be talking about nature of sickness. Here the divisions of industrial sickness has been done. Number one is genuine sickness, second is incipient sickness, and the third one is induced sickness. When we talk about genuine sickness, means despite of our best efforts, we are giving the best out of us in order to rectify the problematic situations, the turbulent situations, but despite of it, the situation is uncontrollable, and it is not being controlled by any means. So that is a genuine sickness. We are trying hard, but we are losing somewhere or the other. The second is incipient sickness, wherein we say that because the project is non-viable, the project is not good, so on account of it, sickness has occurred. We have chosen a project that is not reaping us the benefits, and that is not reaping us the profits. Rather, we are making out-of-pocket expenses in order to make the project better and better, but the project is getting worse, and the situation is rather deteriorating. The next is induced sickness, wherein certain unscrupulous elements and unscrupulous promoters, they deliberately create a situation. This is man-made created situation, wherein because of managerial incompetence, deliberately created managerial incompetence, and because of adoption of wrong policies, the entity becomes sick, because they want to avail certain benefits, they want to misappropriate the funds of various stakeholders. So this is created deliberately so as to avail the benefits that the government provides, or so as to misappropriate the funds of the various people who have invested funds in the company. Now, next comes the causes of sickness. As far as causes of sickness are concerned, it is divided under two categories. One, external factors. The second one is internal factors. External factors relate to the government policies, whether these are related to taxes, high interest rates, taxes on the profit, slackness in demand, anything related to the government policies that is beyond the control of the entity, that characterizes the external factors. And the internal factors include the factors that are on account of wrong planning in relation to location, technological obsolescence, and or anything, and technology, managerial deficiencies, inefficiency, anything related to that which relates to the internal structure of the company. So we'll be first of all talking about the external factors. External factors include general recessionary trend in the economy. It may, because in recession what happens is that the scenario is characterized by massive unemployment, rising prices, and there is a slackness of demand because people are not demanding the product. So then there is no point producing and going for stockpiling at that time. So the industrial unit that faces all these things tends to become sick. The next one is high prices of imports. As far as high prices of imports are concerned, imports are concerned, we when we get the prices, the commodity at a higher price, and the cost of manufacture becomes more than the revenue that is enough to generate the profits. So in that case, because we are running in the cost overruns, so the industrial unit, because we say that it is amenable to losses, cost is more than the revenue, the profits are deterioration and diminishing in nature, then we say that these factors also lead to industrial sickness in long run. Next comes the non-availability of raw materials. We are not getting the supplies at correct time, and the supplies we are getting are not good in quality. This also creates industrial sickness. The next is the government policies. Anything that is related to government policy related to imports or industrial licensing, taxation policies, you are giving more and more exemptions to the people. Then also unscrupulous people, they may get indulged into industrial sickness. They deliberately tend to create industrial sickness for the entity. If we recall the liberalization, the LPG reforms of 1991, wherein the private players were allowed to and the foreign players were also allowed to invest in the entities. At that time, massive sickness of SSIs were induced at that time. It means that one of the policies, liberalization policy, led to this industrial sickness of n number of SSIs at that time. The next one is infrastructural bottleneck. This one relates to the fact that there are certain problems in the industrial infrastructure only, that we are not getting either supposedly the transport on time. We have the material produced, we want to sell it out, but we do not have any means of transport to sell out of our product. So here we are at losing end. And then the power bottlenecks are there. The power supply is not proper. It is not it is not regular. It is not regular. It is rather showing its over flips and flops. So again there is a power bottleneck at that time. This again leads to one of the external factors that causes industrial sickness. The next one is industrial factors, internal factors. These are related to project appraisal deficiencies. Here we talk about all the things which relate to the fact that the unit has been launched without, here I have written with, but it is actually without a proper appraisal of the economic, financial and technical viabilities of the project. We are investing in a project that has not been carefully analyzed. Because of our failure to do that, the project is leading us into losses. So this concept is related to that, and it also causes industrial sickness. Next is industrial unrest and lack of employee motivation. Here the labor is having discontent, maybe because their wages are not getting enhanced, because they are not maybe because they are not getting any sort of benefit from the organization. They need to work on overtime, and the overtime amount which the company is paying is not much as compared to the efforts that is put in by the labor. So all these factors and lead to demotivation of the employees or the labor. This also labor being an important asset for the organization. If they are discontented, they are dissatisfied, there is every probability that industrial enterprise it may not prosper, rather it may come down, and it may end up earning losses. The next one is the wrong choice of technology. When we talk about this thing, means we have commenced a business with a technology that is either expensive or is not correct for the type of proposal which we have chosen. Again there is a problem, and it may lead to industrial sickness. Then marketing problem. The product it may be because of the fact that the product is either obsolete, or it is there is a slackness of demand. People are not demanding the product, and on account of there is a dissatisfied consumer, the customer is not purchasing the product. It may also lead to the customer being the king of the entire marketing scenario. Then if the customer is not purchasing, then again the industry tends to be sick. Next is wrong location. The industry is located in an area where it is not being demanded by the consumers, and there are paramount difficulties related to that, either for supplying the product or related to any attribute of the product. So again, the wrong location poses the problem. Next is lack of finance. The companies are not getting financial aid on time, or the financial institutions are also not ready to give them the funds. So this also leads to industrial sickness, because they are not having funds to even to ensure their sustenance. And there is another sickness that is that I've already talked about in the types of sickness, and that is a voluntary sickness. At times, unscrupulous elements, they do themselves create such situations wherein in order to get the government concessions or the aid from the financial institutions, they recklessly and they deliberately do certain things which leads the company into losses. So again, this is the voluntarily created sickness. So this was also one of the internal sickness that we talked about. The next one comes is, okay, fine, these are the factors that induce a sickness in the industrial scenario. But what is the government policy in this regard? The government has already established various standing committees for major industrial sectors. Financial institutions have been instructed to give financial resources on time to the companies that require them, and for this purpose they obtain the timely returns from the entities which are incurring losses, and they tend to be sick. The directors are accountable to these financial institutions who are going to lend them the funds. They make corrective actions for the sick units. At time they do start taking the stake in the controlling of the entity also, in order to revive the entity. They may think for rationalization also, and the establishment of Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction, that was done in 1987. The purpose was to ensure the revival of sick units. Then IRBI, Industrial Reconstruction Bank of India, it also helped in the revival of sick units. And the major initiative in this direction was taken by it was taken in the form of SICA Amendment Act 1994, wherein the earlier act of 1985 was replaced, and its full form is Sikh Industrial Companies Act. So in 1994 the act was replaced by the 1985 act was replaced, and a new definition of Sikh units was given. And it was asserted that an industry a unit will be considered to be a sick unit when the net worth has been completely eroded, and in addition it is suffering loss for consecutive 5 years or more. So that will be considered to be a sick unit. The purpose was to actually analyze those the genuine sick companies, and to make an effort to revive the units that have actually become sick. Thank you so much for your patience, and prepare well for your examinations, and this is one of the important topics.